And now we're recording. Yeah. Well, it is, of course, fantastic to be having this conversation with you, Merv, and thank you, particularly as we had our little sort of time miscommunication earlier this morning. Now, there's two or three things that sort of in my mind when preparing for this conversation. As you know, one is that Madame, Dr. Kataria, at one point referred to you as the CEO of Laughter Yoga, which is the Chief Excitement Officer, which I thought was a very nice title.
I may have been exciting a decade or so ago. I'm much more low key now, Joe, I can assure you. We mellow with age.
Well, yeah, there we go. Well, not too much, I hope.
No, just a little.
And of course, no, you're a master trainer and laughter ambassador. And the other thing is, of course, you organize, I think it's the two sort of joy festivals a few years ago. So that provides a lovely backdrop, Merv, to the first question, which of course is, what is joy to you? What does joy mean to you?
It means so many things to so many people, as you would know, and great to be on this session with you, Joe. I've seen and observed many others, and I'm so privileged to be in your top priority of 100 people. Somewhere down the list, I've been waiting my turn, and I've finally made it. So all of a sudden, I don't feel joyful, but I feel important. So a couple of things with the Joy Festival. Where it come from is we have held for the last 16 years consecutively a laughter conference, which we're very proud of. And last year it was online. So for the last 16 years, we have the Laughter Yoga Australia Laughter Conference, and it seemed to get bigger and better. But what was interesting was we're having the same people in the laughter community turn up to the laughter conference. I'm going, what's going on here? Why aren't we attracting a new clientele to hear all of this knowledge about laughter? And one of the things that I realized was we were trying to be all things to all people. So what we did was we separated the conference from the weekend. So we turned it from a 2-day conference to a 3-day event. And the first day is our laughter conference. And that's where we have some very serious and very intelligent and intellectual conversations and presenters, amazing presenters, talk about laughter and their link to laughter, however it comes. But then we wanted to let our hair down. Take your hat off, Joe. Have you let your hair down recently? There we go. So some people wanted to let their hair down, those who have it. And I thought, how can we have this event where everybody just has so much fun that doesn't necessarily have to be laughter specific related? Yeah. So I just come up and go, what if we were to have a joy festival? What if we had 2 days where all of the traditional laughter people came together and let our hair down and said, you know, all bars lifted. What brings you joy? What brings you joy? And the people would come along and say, what brings me joy is this. What brings me joy is this. And we just shared the joy, and it worked wonderfully well. Now, do we have some laughter sessions in it? Absolutely, because laughter brings joy. No doubt about that at all. So that's the background of where that come from. What brings me joy? Joe, I've been teaching and doing training of laughter yoga now for well over a decade, probably 13, 14, 15 years, something like that.
Fantastic.
And I simplify it in my trainings, and I just say to people, you've got happiness and joy. Happiness requires an external stimulus to make you happy. Joy comes from within. That's the simplified version, and everybody seems to get that. And I'm sure of all the more important people that have come before me, you can see I'm hanging on to that, Joe.
It's a level playing field, but it's just a sequence. It's a sequence on the same continuum.
Save the best till last. Oh, now that absolutely took away my next point. So this whole thing about happiness, joy, etc., is on a continuum. So down here, you've got miserable, sad, depressed, suicidal, whatever it is, and everything builds up from that. So as I said, simplistically in my trainings, I say happiness is external, needs a stimulus. Joy is internal.
Yeah.
It's a state of being. Going on from that, though, I see on this continuum, we have happiness, but then we have joy. So it's not one or the other. I believe joy is an extension of happiness that goes so much further down that continuum, but not all the way, because at the end is a state of awe, AWE.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yes. Yep.
And that is just joy on steroids, joy on steroids. So for me, joy is beyond happiness, but it's not as far as awe. So the point I'd like to make about that, when I'm doing my laughter sessions as an example, you can see people get happy, right? No doubt about it. Laughter makes us happy.
Yeah.
But then how does laughter make us joyous or joyful or in joy? My favorite word is living a life in joy. So you're enjoying life, not enduring it, not enduring it. And that comes from long sustained periods of living laughter. So it's not a matter of doing a laughter session, it's living laughter. And certainly with the research study that I've done, having the privilege to be invited by people like yourself to invite my opinions on different things, the research studies, the workshops, the training, everything I do has put me in joy, and it's all relative to laughter. So I guess the more that you live a life of laughter, rather than just do laughter, the more you become in joy. That's my spin on the whole thing.
Fantastic. It's just very enjoyable listening to all that, Merv. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. And the point there, Joe, is we talk about this word called joy. It's just a 3-letter word, but as you said, this is enjoyable. So we are able to be joyful about talking about this thing that's very, very dear to us. Other people, if they were to talk about it, it might make them happy. But when you've gone to the depth of knowledge and understanding as you and I and others have, it just goes to a whole extra level of that joy. Now, the point that I'm getting to here is the people who come to my laughter club that's been going for, I don't know, 8 years or something, I forget, the social laughter club. The more they come, the more it goes from I'm happy to be here to I am enjoying being here. Even the language changes, and the relationship that we have together, the bonding, the connection that we have changes at a very deep level. And that's because we're actually going up this spectrum. We've gone beyond happiness to joy. The other thing I want to throw in here, and I know it's not part of your question, but I did want to mention is this thing called awe, AWE.
Yeah.
And that is beyond joy. And I've experienced this in laughter sessions as well too, usually over a period of time, but we can get there in one laughter session sometimes. And this thing called awe, I did a whole workshop. I've been fascinated by it for some time, and I did a whole one-day workshop. It was a few years ago now, and all of a sudden it made sense. And this person talked about a state of awe, and it's when you see or experience something of such magnificence, you just sit there and you go, oh, I'm going, that is amazing. That is amazing. I've had that experience with laughter where I just go, oh, and it's beyond joy. It's beyond happiness. I've experienced it. The first time I think I experienced a state or moment of awe was when I held my first child. It happened to be a boy, so it was a very manly connection. And I held it and I just went, oh, I'm going, oh my goodness. So reflecting back, that was a moment of awe. And what this person was saying was, don't wait for them to happen. Go seeking for them to happen. In fact, create moments of awe. And I'll go, oh, that is amazing. And the definition that he gave as to when we're in a state of awe is when the sympathetic and the parasympathetic systems are balanced. They are absolutely balanced and not one taking over from the other. And I said, but because the parasympathetic nervous system driven by the diaphragm, as we know through laughter, I said, that's a state of non-breathing. And he goes, yeah, that's a state of non-breathing. So here's my point. People who are meditating, you look at them and you swear they're not breathing. They just go into this very, very still state. And at the end of some of my laughter sessions, at the end of all of my laughter sessions, I'll observe the people's body once we put them into a meditative state after such hyperactivity with the laughter. And I'll be looking at their core, their tummy, and it's not moving. And I go, oh, what's going on there? You feel like kicking them and going, are you okay? Are you alive? But these people, when they've gone into that state of awe, they'll come out, and do you know what they say, Joe?
Tell me.
They go, oh no, you went there. You went there. You went into a state of awe. And that to me is joy on steroids. So I just wanted to throw that in. Happiness, joy, and awe is all on the spectrum, and it's just a matter of where you're playing as to what you experience. I think one of the mistakes that we make, Joe, if I may, is we tend to go, laughter will fix everything and it will fix it now. Whereas if someone's on the right down the end of that continuum, right down a really dark place, we have to bring them very, very gently, very, very gently. So many people go, oh, I'm experiencing joy. Oh, so sorry, I want to experience joy. Well, are you even happy at the moment? Let's sort of pull you gently into this state so that you can get to a state of joy. And I believe it comes with time and hard work. We may have glimpses of joy, but then we'll fall out of it again. But once you apply yourself to whatever it is that brings you joy, for me, it's laughter. For other people, it'll be Qigong. For other people, it'll be meditation. Whatever brings you joy, like our Joy Festival, as long as you apply yourself to it for long enough, you'll start to live that state of joy.
Yes. I think that last point you made is a really important one, that for us to sort of move along this continuum, to move along the spectrum, it does take application. And applies as much sort of to the meditation that you mentioned, and the sort of qigong and the laughter practices. But to make progress, we have to keep applying ourselves.
Absolutely, yes. It takes time and effort. It's not a magic. It's not a magic pill that just solves everybody's problems. And I think we need to get people on board to tell them that story as well, too. You know, we've seen how it's impacted on our lives, but we may not have been where they were when we came into the laughter journey, and we may have got it quicker than they did. So I think we need to just take people gently on the journey to get them to experience the different stages in incremental bits. But as long as they keep applying themselves, they will get to a state of joy.
Great. Is it fantastic? It is great. It's really so insightful, because now you have been on this path for a long time, right? And you've helped so many people along this journey. You have absolutely so answered the second question, which was how important is it to you?
It's important to everybody. It's not just important to me, it's important to everybody. Why it's important to me, especially at my age, and I won't give that away, but it gets older every year. It's more important that we reach it in our latter years. You know, it's something that we have the right to be, you know, living life in a state of joy in our latter years. So I do a lot of work with the elderly, of which I just about am one. My goodness, I go into aged care facilities now. No, this is scary. I go into aged care facilities and we start chatting, and half of the people are younger than me. This is really scary space. So living a life of health and happiness, which is the catchphrase of Dr. Kataria, and joy, I think is really, really important the older that we live. So that's why it's important to me. I have a right to be there at my age, and if we can help people get there before they part and leave the earth, I reckon that's a good thing.
Fantastic. One point came to my mind, one question sort of came to my mind as you were sort of chatting just then, which is, do you reckon it's easier for people to find joy the older they get?
Oh, if they allow themselves. if they allow themselves. So we need to allow ourselves and be open to joyful experiences. And so often, look, we're going through this COVID. You and I chatted before we started this about the COVID. There's an awful lot of reasons why COVID should and probably has taken away a lot of joy from a lot of people's lives. No doubt about that at all.
Yeah.
But how much are we going to allow it to call the shots? Bad example about vaccine shots there. Bad pun, I should say. But at some stage, if we have the right to be joyful, what is it we need to do to harness this thing to be able to continue living a joyful life, even in challenging times? So beyond COVID will come the mental health crisis. It comes behind every crisis that's ever been: bushfires, floods, epidemics, pandemics, whatever it is, there is a mental health crisis. And this is one on steroids. This is going to be going for at least a decade on an international level. So there will be so many people seeking, first of all, happiness, but then living a joyful life, having experienced possibly one of the biggest catastrophes we will have ever experienced in our lifetime. Certainly in mine, I don't think there'll be a bigger one than this. This is the sort of thing that 30-year-olds today will be talking about in 3 decades' time in their 60s to their children and going, guess what? Let me tell you about the COVID pandemic of 2020 and 21, because it's that big. So our challenge from here on in, Joe, is to bring some happiness and some healing, health and happiness. There's our catchphrase again. But then once we've done that, then we introduce them to this thing called joy. And it's about living a life of joy while dealing with the present challenges, whatever they may be.
Yes. So in a way then, again, sort of following what you're saying, there is an opportunity and a sort of potential for introducing people to sort of the quality of joy, because there's going to be a lot of sort of questioning and a lot of sort of unsettled lives, and and when we are sort of questioning and unsettled, we become open to exploring things that we might not normally, when our life is sort of going along okay, and that presumably, sort of reading into or sort of listening to what you're saying, that then becomes a real opportunity for laughter yoga practices for health and happiness and joy.
Yes, yes, because the health is the healing from the crisis, then the happiness, and then the joy. So it's getting them along the spectrum, one step at a time, and each of those steps could take a year or 2 years to get them there. I think one of the things we tend to do, certainly in Australia, Joe, anyway, with mental health, is have the concept, oh yeah, it's mental health, do this and you'll be okay. No, it won't be okay. It's not like putting a Band-Aid on a bleeding finger. This is quite an intense, complex condition that may have taken months or years to create, which has been all of a sudden broken by the virus, which now may take months or years to help heal, much less get the person to a happy or joyous state.
So it comes back to something you said earlier in the conversation, which is application. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So when we sort of introduce people to the potential of, for example, laughter yoga practices, the real benefits will come through continued application and sticking with it, and feeling it and opening to it, and finding that the joy is inside. The joy is inside.
Yeah, I think the critical thing that you said then, Joe, is feeling it. So I'm an avid reader. I'm reading a book at the moment. Oh, I've got my blurred background on, so that's not working very well. It's The Body Keeps the Score. Mind, brain, and body in the transformation of trauma. So I'm deep into trauma at the moment, and they're suggesting trauma lives within the body.
Yeah,
not in the mind. Not in the mind. It's within the body, which is good because that's where joy lives. So we have to shift that trauma from the body to enable the joy to come in and then bring the joy in. So one of the things that I've experienced, and maybe it's through wisdom or being an old grumpy man, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, is the real understanding that what we do is simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And when you get that understanding and provide empathy to people who are in a bad place and put yourself in their shoes and go, I've got something. It's going to feel good the first time, but then it starts to be good, and then it starts to do good, and then it starts to transform you. But it takes time. It takes time.
Yes. Well, it's a fantastic conversation. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe, for finally getting around to me. I won't let it go. I won't let it go.
Because actually, you see, just in the sort of segment you were talking about, again, you raised another really interesting point, which is the way that not only is trauma in the body, but joy is in the body as well. When we release the trauma, we then open ourselves to the bodily experience of joy, on a cellular level.
At a cellular level, you've got it again. So the hormonal and chemical changes that get created by the laughter is at a cellular level, and we've got billions of cells. So this laughter stuff on the surface is so superficial, but when you start to dig deep into it, as I have been for 17 years now, virtually full time, I found out that it's so much bigger than superficial, and I know this much of this much. There's just so much more to learn. So in summary, what is joy to me? It is the embodiment of laughter at a cellular level that transforms me to help me deal with all the catastrophes going on in the world and in my own personal life, and I'm certainly not immune to them, that's for sure.
Well, at the next Joy conference that I organise, and I will be organising it as soon as it becomes sort of possible, although it might have to be sort of through a video link, I will definitely be wanting you to be one of the speakers, please, Merv.
I'm, as I've said to many people, I've had the privilege of being at the Malaysian conference and the Mexican marathon and the upcoming South African one. I put myself open to assist anybody within the laughter community. If I've got a little bit of information that I can share that's going to help others, that's my lot in life. Everything else is to be paid for, but that's my business. I have a business of laughter, but yes, I'd be happy to assist you or anybody else with your intentions of bringing this magical thing to the world.
Fantastic. Merv, it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you very much. We made it, Merv. We made it, okay?
We did. We got there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Merv. Thank you.
Okay, farewell. Bye-bye.